Okay, welcome to episode 11 of the podcast. It's been a while. It's been a month actually since the last episode. Over a month, in fact. Phew, time flies. And there's a good reason for that, by the way. I haven't been in the country. I've been traveling for the last 3 weeks or so. So I was out in Hawaii. And then from there went to Bora Bora, which is a tiny island in the French Polynesia. And from there flew to Los Angeles. Then drove all the way to Denver, Colorado, caught a flight to Chicago, where I spent a couple of days, and then back home. So it's been a totally crazy trip. And we did it all on a whim. You know, there was no real plan, so to speak. I booked the first plane ticket a few days before I flew out and just thought, you know what, sod it. Let's do something a bit different this time. So it was exciting. There was no plan in place. You know, I'm used to having a plan. I'm used to, knowing where I'm going and being a bit more organized. So it was a little bit stressful not knowing where you're going or where you're staying or how much it's going to cost. But, it's kind of part of the thrill, and it probably turned out to be my best trip. Pretty much all the places I visited were on my bucket list other than LA, which I've already been to. But since these places are so far away, I never really thought I'd ever get around to visiting any of them, but it all worked out in the end. So the first pit stop was in Hawaii. Now, I always imagined Hawaii as, just one island, but apparently there's 5 of them. So, I thought we'd play it safe and visit the capital, being Honolulu. And to my surprise, I was told it's the worst out of the 5 in the sense that it's very commercialized. So not the worst in terms of, natural beauty, because the island was stunning. It really was. There was lush forests, rocky ocean views, beautiful beaches, great weather. But the locals told us, if you go to the other islands, they're more untouched. So you get a better feel for the island culture. Whereas in Honolulu, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. So you feel like you're in Miami or something. There's so many busy hotels and bars and nightlife. You just don't get that authentic feel for the island. And Hawaii is kind of a weird clash between local Polynesian culture and Western American culture. On the one hand, you have the local islanders with their customs and their language and food and hospitality. And then on the other hand, you've got McDonald's and IHOP and Trump hotels and high taxes. So it's just kind of that weird mix. It's like America just laid on top of an island in the middle of the Pacific. So it's kind of strange in that sense. But when we left Honolulu, we were literally going to, hop to the next island. But when we got to the airport, we found out that there's only one flight a week that goes to Bora Bora. Now, the first flight, absolutely killed me. It was 10 hours to LA and another 5 to Hawaii. And I absolutely hate long haul flights. Anything longer than 7 hours and I start losing it. So that second flight from LA to Hawaii really killed me. It really knocked me out. And we were there only a few days, so I hadn't fully adjusted to the time zone, and the prospect of another 5-hour flight to Tahiti and then another 1-hour flight to Bora Bora, followed by a boat to the hotel, was not an option. But, I thought we'd come this far, and in all likelihood, I'm probably never going to travel this far again, or at least for a long time. So, enduring another 5 hours of pain to visit a place that hardly anyone from our side of the pond can say they've done. I thought, sod it, we'll go for the flow. Go with the flow. We booked a ticket and a hotel, got on the flight. And, the flight wasn't too bad. It went all right. But unfortunately, when we got there, there was a slight delay. They were messing around with the, at the passport control. So we'd missed the follow-up flight to Bora Bora, which meant we had to stay the night in Tahiti. So the airport's, it's really small. And there's a big motel opposite. It's up this steep hill. It's only about 200 yards in front of the airport. But it's up a steep hill, and the hotel sort of looks over the airport. So we've got all our luggage, and we had to drag it up this hill. So thankfully, I'm a light packer, but my missus' bag is really heavy. And bearing in mind, it's like 25 degrees outside. It's really humid. It's late at night. We've just got off a flight. We're jet lagged, and we get to the reception, and they tell us we're fully booked. And the next hotel, which is about 45-minute drive away, they have a $300 room, and it's an $80 cab to get there. So yeah, they weren't very helpful. We had to leave that alone because we only needed the room for 6 hours or so. So yeah, I kind of lost it with the receptionist a bit, and the cab driver as well, because the receptionist actually told us it's $30. The cab driver took a look at us and he realized, all right, these guys have really got no option. Let me try and shaft him, So he tried to charge us $80. So I just laid into him and left. And yeah, so now we're dragging our bags all the way back down to the hill, to the airport, and we've got no place to stay. The airport's closed now. Everything is shut. Even the toilets are shut. There's nowhere to eat, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So it was just a rough night sleeping on the bench in the airport. And yeah, we were there for the next 7 hours, 8 hours or so. It was just a total nightmare. It was horrible. But yeah, long story short, we got the morning flight to Bora Bora, and then we got on the boat, and I can honestly say, when you see Bora Bora, everything you imagine paradise to look like is exactly what it was. It really is a special place. There's probably only a handful of places in the world that can match it in terms of natural beauty. The water is literally a bright, sparkling turquoise color. The sand is white. The skyline is like looking through a 4K camera lens. At nighttime, it's so clear. The moon and the stars literally cast a soft glow over the island. So it's like still bright at night. And what we did was we got a villa, one of those villa suites. They look like houses. They look like little huts, which overlook the ocean. They overlook the Pacific. And then when you walk out your front room, there's an infinity pool that plunges into the ocean. So you can literally come out your room, climb down the stairs on the side of the infinity pool, and you can just jump in the sea. And you can swim with the aqua life there. There's stingrays, there's fish, and everything. It's just spectacular. It's the stuff you see on postcards. It's the stuff you see on Instagram mood boards. But yeah, and we did just that. We actually swam with sharks. Believe it or not, we swam with stingrays, with manta rays, and all sorts of ocean life. And we trekked through jungle. The jungles with off-road RVs, the full works. It was just a crazy experience, honestly. Swimming with the sharks and whatnot. The sharks there, they grow to about 3 feet tall, so they're not like fully grown adult sharks. They only grow about 3 feet big, and they go around in packs. So as long as you leave them alone, they're not they're not dangerous. They just swim right past you. And the stingrays, you get to play with them. You can pick them up. They're not dangerous. It's just thinking about it now. It was just it was a real amazing thing to do. But I don't want to give too much away since I've recorded a lot of footage, and I'm gonna upload that onto YouTube in the next week or so. But yeah, it's definitely got to say it's been my best trip ever, and we did it all on a whim, without a plan. That's what's so amazing about it. So yeah, if you got a missus, you got a girlfriend or something, it's really a couple sort of thing. You spend 99% of your time on the resort. There's really nowhere else to visit or nothing else to do. So it gets boring after a week or so. There's only so many mocktails or cocktails you can drink in a week and sit by the pool, and there's only so much sun you can soak up. It's not like Hawaii, which, like I said, there's so many activities to do. Bora Bora is just, a cluster of tiny islands next to each other, all with a corresponding hotel, so you spend all your time on the resort. So it's great for 5 days or so, but no longer. But yeah, glad we got it off the bucket list. But yeah, I did manage to sneak in a bit of trading. For the most part, it was just so I could get some footage together for YouTube. It kind of clashed. My holiday kind of clashed with the IPL and a bit of the flat racing. Racing was pretty much dead while I was away. And IPL, I only trade very select games on it. So, yeah, I just done 1 or 2 days of work when I was in Hawaii, and, 1 or 2 trading sessions while I was in Bora Bora. I have a real hard time switching off, as it is. And it feels kind of weird staying away from the markets altogether. The only problem is, especially when it comes to racing, is that when you're doing it off a laptop, it's really tricky to get in and out of the markets because you need split second timing. You need every edge over the markets possible. So when you're doing it on a little fiddly laptop on a little keypad, it's really difficult, you know. So speed is key when it comes to race trading. And yeah, when you're working off a laptop, I don't recommend it, especially if you're gonna, do some in-play stuff. So yeah, I just lowered my stakes and turned a lot of my attention to cricket, which is far slower paced. So yeah, done a bit of cricket trading out there. But yeah, for the most part, it was just just soaking up the sun, topping up my tan, and enjoying the weather, which is really hard to do in this country, in the UK, at this time of the year, since I suffer so badly from hay fever. So it was really nice to get away from that. But yeah, when we left Bora Bora, we went to Los Angeles for just under a week. My wife's got some family out there, so we stayed with them. The last time I came to LA was around 4 years ago, and we stayed like right in the center of the action near Venice Beach. So it's really touristy there. So this time I got a real feel for the suburbs and whatnot. So a little bit of a different experience, more in the city we were. But yeah, that was fun. I like LA. But as of recently, you hear quite a few negative things about California and about the place and the liberal politics and the crime and the drug problems, the drugs in particular. Actually, you can't really avoid the problems there. It's pretty much in your face. It's really sad. You see so many cracked out homeless people on the streets, on the beach, and that's what really shocked me, because the last time I came to LA, when we went to Venice Beach, there were homeless people sleeping literally on the beach, which is so sad. And you often see individuals acting, really bizarre, in the middle of the street during the day in broad daylight, and you just don't see that sort of thing here in the UK. I mean, we have a drug problem of our own, but over there it just feels, like it's really in your face. Here it's far more discreet, and that's one of the main observations I made, having visited the US several times now. I'm always hesitant to take a hard opinion when visiting foreign countries, because at the end of the day, you spend the overwhelming majority of your time in the tourist sort of parts where you're visiting. You don't really get a taste of what suburban life is like as a tourist, so you don't see things that the locals see. I mean, you take London, for example, where I live. You rarely meet someone from outside London that doesn't, fall in love with the place. But all they really get to see is Westminster, Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, Knightsbridge, and so on. So, I always try and be reserved in my opinion unless I've spent significant time in another place. And with America, having visited pretty much all the big cities, the drug problem is, it's certainly a commonality up and down the country, which is sad. But other than that, LA is a cool, fun place. They got every kind of sport you can imagine, all sorts of facilities, every kind of shopping and food and bars and entertainment, year-round weather, incredibly good-looking people. So from a superficial standpoint, it's a 10 out of 10. But, one of the big drawbacks I found, if I was ever to live there, other than the drugs, of course, is the fact that it's so different to London in the sense that it's so vast, it's so big. Everything is just so spread out and disconnected. When compared to a city like London, despite how vast London is, it's very connected. You can get from A to B via cab, bus, car, train, underground, overground, very easily. Everything's very accessible here. Whereas in LA, everything is so spread out. It's so big. You got to drive miles and miles just to get from A to B. So here, when you say something is just down the road or around the corner, it literally means 30 seconds, a couple of minutes. But over there, if you say something, it's just down the road, it literally means 8 miles you got to drive. So I guess that's a problem. Or, it just takes a bit of an adjustment to live in a place like that. And they also have very prohibitive taxes on income and business owners. So there's a real squeeze going on the middle class. People either getting pushed into poverty or they're leaving. So there's a real exodus on the middle class to, more Republican states like Texas and Florida, where they're a lot more tax friendly. So visiting LA is one thing, but living there is another beast altogether. So yeah, I think LA is just a place I'd visit. It's not a place I'd consider living, and it's far away, of course, as well. But yeah, anyway, so when we left Los Angeles, originally we planned on visiting at least one other country. Um, so we wanted to do South America, and given that Mexico is close by, it's on the border of California actually. Um, that would have been the natural option. I really didn't want to clock up any more air miles and do anything long distance because we were considering going to Peru and doing the Inca Trail or going to somewhere more exotic, further down south. But by now I was just so exhausted. So we thought we'd do Mexico, and then we thought about it, but we'd had enough of beaches and water. So we thought, since we got a car, we had a car driving around LA. We'll drive to another city in the US. So we thought, what the heck, let's do a road trip. So we had like a 24-hour time limit on the car before we had to give the keys back. And we really wanted to go to Chicago, but when we punched it in the sat nav, it was like 2,000 miles away. And it would take around 30 hours to get there, assuming we drive continuously. So in other words, it's impossible. So we thought, we'll do halfway. And we drove 1,000 miles to Denver, Colorado, and we caught a short flight from there. So yeah, I guess this was my first proper road trip. Apparently it's a big thing in the US. A lot of people hire those RVs and they drive up and down the country. But yeah, we were doing it in a Ford Mustang, so it wasn't quite as comfortable. And I mean, I've driven in the UK. I've driven from London to Birmingham and to Manchester, and I can tell you now that this trek from LA to Colorado has really put things into perspective for me. I mean, driving to Birmingham now, from London feels like a walk in the park. This was the most uncomfortable, crazy journey I've ever had. So now I totally get it why you need one of those big RVs. If you're gonna do a road trip, never do it in a small car with in a 2-seater. Because even if you have got someone with you and you're taking turns at the wheel, you can barely sleep. It's so uncomfortable. These cars are not designed for road trips. So we thought we're just gonna bomb it, and get there, comfortably. But yeah, it was anything but comfortable. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was fun. And it started out super fun. When you're enthusiastic and all that, you get excited, but that slowly wears off when you're driving nonstop through the early hours of the morning. But yeah, at least I can say now I've done a road trip in the US, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the only bummer was that, a lot of the cool places we drove through were at night in the pitch black. So other than seeing the Las Vegas Strip lit up, we couldn't take in any of the views of Utah when we drove through Salt Lake City, which is a shame. But upon entering Colorado, it's probably one of the most picturesque places I've ever seen. It feels like you're in a different country altogether, from LA or Vegas. You're surrounded by huge rocky mountains with lush forests and snow-capped mountains in the distance. It's just breathtaking. And you end up driving by lots of private gated communities with golf courses and hotels and mansions dotted around them, which makes sense since Colorado is a state where the filthy rich either visit or live. And like I said, in the background, we could see snow-capped mountains, which I suspect was Aspen, which is a famous ski resort. So next time I go to the US, definitely going to try and visit that place properly and explore. But yeah, from Denver, we got a flight to Chicago, which was our final pit stop. And we stayed in downtown Chicago, which is kind of like the busy city area. And it's right on the edge of Lake Michigan. So we went up one of the skyscrapers there, which overlook the lake. And I say lake, but they use that word pretty loosely because the lake is like an ocean. And, from on top of the skyscraper, you just get a breathtaking view of the ocean and the city on the other side in equal measure. And from there, we just enjoyed some food, some drinks, and just some sightseeing. We were staying in a lovely hotel and just enjoyed whatever we could in downtown before heading home. So, yeah, it's been a real whirlwind of a few weeks. We've been in 3 different time zones, and even though physically I'm exhausted, I feel somewhat refreshed mentally. I can't remember the last time I ever went away this sort of time of the year, but I think I'm going to make it more of a habit. Instead of going away, just during the winter, I'm going to start doing summer breaks as well, because it's so draining working flat out from March through till August, September. So that little down period before the June racing and cricket action is a good little slot to sneak in a break. Um, I can never fully switch off from trading altogether. Like I said, I did a bit of work while I was away. I just can't help but feel like I'm wasting time if I don't at least place a couple trades, even if it means making a tenner in a day. I feel satisfied. I know it's not good. It can easily border onto addiction, but I've been doing this for I don't know how many years now, and when it's all you've been doing 99% of the time, it's so hard to just switch off and forget trading altogether. But yeah, I'm glad I really took my foot off the gas for the last few weeks and just relaxed, just reset. And, it's now it's time to get into gear, because we got such a busy month ahead. So, I'm fresh now, ready to attack for June. We've got Royal Ascot, which commences tomorrow. So that's going to be a solid 5 days of profit making, pre-race and in play. It's also the final day of the second England and New Zealand test match, which I've worked my way into a good position. All 3 results are still in play, so it's going to be a good finish tomorrow. Hopefully England can clean up early and take those last 3 wickets and chase down that total. It's still a good batting pitch, but England's top order has been a bit shaky as of late. So hopefully they get the job done. I'll really be looking to back England tomorrow. We also got the Sri Lanka Australia 1-day series starting. The 2020, the 3-match 2020 series is just finished. Australia gave him a pasting in the first 2 games, and then in the third game, it was absolutely outrageous. Australia were trading at 1.01. Sri Lanka were 1,000 to 1. I can't remember exactly. I think they were down to their middle order, lower order batsmen. I think they were 6 or so wickets down. Don't quote me on that. And they needed 50 or so runs of, I can't even remember, 20 balls, less than 20 balls. And Sri Lanka just ran absolutely riot. They were just smashing sixes out of nowhere. So, I tried to fire in just a, cheeky £5-10 bet, 1,000 to 1. And when that first 6 came in, it went all the way from 1,000 to around 200-300 to 1. So I missed my entry, and I thought, you know what, let's just leave it. And then boom, they get another 6 and another 6 and another 4. And in the space of an over, Sri Lanka went from 1,000 to 1 all the way down to, I think, 50 to 1, around 50 to 1 and 30 to 1, between that sort of range they were trading at. And I thought, oh my God, now we got a game in our hands here. Because Australia had already won the series, so they had nothing really to play for. Sri Lanka were just playing for pride. So lucky I caught, a nice back bet on the tie, and I managed to make a chunk off of that. There was no tie in the end. Sri Lanka went on to win. So I've never seen Australia in any format of cricket be gubbed when trading a 1.01. So, that was a real crazy match. I just wish my £10 got matched, £5 or £10, whatever it was, at 1,000 to 1, and I'd probably be taking a month off by now. But yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, we got that series, the 1-day series starting. And we got some more test cricket as well in a few days, with the West Indies Bangladesh series starting. So I'm really going to relish this month. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to stay focused and make the absolute most of it. I've been playing hard over the last few weeks. Now it's time to work hard. So I'm doing things in reverse this time round, and hopefully make a chunk of money back after the amount I've been spending. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on how my week and how my month goes. So yeah. Oh, and by the way, for those who aren't on my mailing list, if you're not, then head to my website. But I'll be live streaming myself trading Royal Ascot every day this month. So for all 5 days, I'll be live streaming my trades. Yeah, usually for my live streams, in play is typically what I work on because it's the most popular amongst race traders. But since Royal Ascot is probably the second or third most liquid racing event in the calendar year, I'm gonna really attack the pre-race markets so you guys can see me live. It's a fun, interactive learning experience, and you can even mirror my positions and make some money for yourself in the meantime. So if that's something that interests you, then head to my website for more details. I'll post a link in the description below. But otherwise, it's good to finally put a podcast out again. I'm going to put a day in the life video episode up next week, where I vlogged all my traveling. So, make sure you guys are at least subbed to my YouTube. It's free. That's free. So give this video a share, like, comment, whatever floats your boat, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Peace.